Shurdvam pratatastayasashaka guna pravridha vishaya pravalaha adascha mulanyanasantatani karmanubandhini manushaloke. Translation. The branches of this tree extend downward and upward, nourished by the three modes of material nature. The twigs are the objects of the senses. This tree also has roots going down, and these are bound to the fruitive actions of human society. Text 3 and 4. Narupam asyeha tatopalabhyate nato nachadir nacha sampratishta ashvatamenam suvridha mulam asanga shastrena tridhena chitva tata param tat parimargivavyam yasmin gutana nivekantanuyaha tam eva chadam purusham prapadye yata pravriti prastrita purani. Translation. The real form of this tree cannot be perceived in this world. No one can understand where it ends, where it begins, or where its foundation is. But with determination, one must cut down this tree with the weapon of detachment. So doing, one must seek that place from which, having once gone, one never returns, and there surrender to that Supreme Personality of Godhead, from whom everything has begun and in whom everything is abiding since time immemorial. Text 5. Nirmana moha jita sanga dosha adhyatma nitya vinivritta kamaha dvandvar vimukta sukha dukkha samgyar gacchantya mudha padamavyayam tat. Translation. One who is free from illusion, false prestige, and false association, who understands the eternal, who is done with material lust, and is freed from the duality of happiness and distress, and who knows how to surrender unto the Supreme Person, attains to that eternal kingdom. Text 6. Na tadvasayate suryo na shashanko na pavaka yat gatva na nivartante tadama paramam mama. Translation. That abode of mine is not illumined by the sun or moon, nor by electricity. One who reaches it never returns to this material world. Text 7. Mamaevangsho jiva loke jiva bhuta sanatana manashashtanindriyani prakritistani karshati. Translation. The living entities in this conditioned world are my eternal fragmental parts. Due to conditioned life, they are struggling very hard with the 6 senses, which include the mind. Text 8. Shariram yaravapnoti yachchapyutramatishvaraha grihitvaitani samyati vayurgandhan ivashayat. Translation. The living entity in the material world carries his different conceptions of life from one body to another as the air carries aromas. Let me check here. I lost track. Yes, bro. Text 9. Shrotram chakshus parshnanam cha rasanam grihanam evacha adhishtaya manaschayam vishayan upasevate. Translation. The living entity, thus taking another gross body, obtains a certain type of ear, tongue and nose, and sense of touch, which are grouped about the mind. Thus he enjoys a particular set of sense objects. So let us return to chapter 14, text 26. Page number 664. Translation. One who engages in full devotional service, who does not fall down in any circumstance, at once transcends the modes of material nature, and thus comes to the level of Brahman. Purport. This verse is a reply to Arjuna's third question. What is the means of attaining to the transcendental position? As explained before, the material world is acting under the spell of the modes of material nature. One should not be disturbed by the activities of the modes of nature. Instead of putting his consciousness into such activities, he may transfer his consciousness to Krishna activities. Krishna activities are known as Bhakti Yoga, always acting for Krishna. This includes not only Krishna, but his different plenary expansions, such as Rama and Narayana. He has innumerable expansions. One who is engaged in the service of any of the forms of Krishna or his plenary expansions is considered to be transcendentally situated. One should also note that all the forms of Krishna are fully transcendental, blissful, full of knowledge, and eternal. Such personalities of Godhead are omnipotent and omniscient, and they possess all transcendental qualities. So, if one engages himself in the service of Krishna or his plenary expansions with unfailing determination, although these modes of material nature are very difficult to overcome, he can overcome them easily. This is already explained in the 7th chapter. One who surrenders unto Krishna at once surmounts the influence of the modes of material nature. To be in Krishna consciousness or in devotional service means to acquire the equality of Krishna. The Lord says that his nature is eternal, blissful, and full of knowledge, and the living entities are part and parcel of the Supreme, as gold particles are part of a gold mine. Thus the living entity's spiritual position is as good as gold, as good as Krishna in quality. The difference of individuality continues, otherwise there is no question of Bhakti Yoga. Bhakti Yoga means that the Lord is there, the devotee is there, and the activity of exchange of love between the Lord and the devotee is there. Therefore, the individuality of two persons is present in the Supreme Personality of Godhead and the individual person. Otherwise, there is no meaning to Bhakti Yoga. If one is not situated in the same transcendental position with the Lord, one cannot serve the Supreme Lord. To be a personal assistant to a king, one must acquire the qualifications. Thus, the qualification is to become Brahman, or freed from all material contamination. It is said in the Vedic literature, Brahmaiva san Brahmapyeta preti. One can attain the Supreme Brahman by becoming Brahman. This means that one must qualitatively become one with Brahman. By attainment of Brahman, one does not lose his eternal Brahman identity as individual soul. So, there are activities beyond liberation. So what does it mean to be Brahman or a spiritual quality? It means to engage in devotional service. Otherwise, actually we just think that we're liberated. Vimukta manina, that we think we're actually liberated. Actually, real liberation is after engaging in devotional service. That if we're actually spiritual, that's very good. Aham brahmasmi. But what does it mean to be on a spiritual platform? We have to engage in our constitutional position, which is to engage in loving devotional service to Krishna, reciprocation, exchanges. So this many philosophers don't understand. But what's very interesting is that yogis and jnanis and all these persons are trying to, even the karmis, material scientists, we're trying to become free from suffering, right? We're spending a lot of money to become free from suffering. We're interested in liberation. Either, we're trying to minimize the sufferings of this world, and more or less we're trying to work in that direction. Or as the Gyanis, Maharaj?
The question may come that why, if God doesn't need anything, He's got everything He needs, then why is the relationship of Bhakti Yoga emphasized? It's more or less just a pretending He needs something. He pretends like he needs something, and the devotee pretends like he's giving something that the Lord doesn't have. So one might think this is just pretension, and it's a waste of time, and it's not the real thing. So in reply, the devotees would say, it's not exactly just pretending. The Lord doesn't require anything. There's nothing He's missing or He's in lack of. That's true. But then you might say, well, He needs love. He wants to love. Or if that would mean He's deficient if he didn't have that love. But it's not exactly that He's deficient. He doesn't need it, but He's so kind. His character is so high that everything He does is not just for Himself. He's not just interested in His own pleasure. He has unlimited pleasure anyway. There's nothing that can interfere with it. His nature is pleasure. But He's so kind that He wants to give it to others. So really, what happens is the devotee tries to, or the candidate for Bhakti Yoga tries to render some service, however faulty it may be, and it will be faulty because of his conditioning and what have you. But if he tries, Krishna takes it so seriously, and he's so enwrapped in the activity that it just becomes very satisfying for the candidate. Take, for example, some children are supposed to act out some play. So if let's say the teacher happens to be a brilliant actor in his own right, and he plays one of the parts with them, by their playing the part with him, they may pick up some of his emotion for the part, for the story, for the activity, and they may play their parts better. You can imagine they would play their part. Everyone would come up to that standard of taking it extremely seriously. So Krishna, as God, He takes the part, whatever part He's playing, whether it's the son of Mother Yashoda or Nanda Maharaj, it no longer becomes just a part for Him. he completely loses himself in the activity itself of devotional service and reciprocating with the devotee. So the candidates, the bhakti yogis, they don't stay aloof from that. They get drawn in by the whole activity, that God reciprocating with them. So it becomes not just pretending, because if Krishna were pretending that he likes something, that's not Krishna. Krishna doesn't pretend. He really does, when he fights with the army that he's fighting it, he really fights to win. When he's engaging in his loving affairs, playing the flute, he really plays the flute amazingly. It's so amazing that even the stones quiver in ecstasy and inanimate objects become stationary. He really does play that flute in an amazing way. Everything he does it completely. When he acts as the child of Mother Yashoda, she's so attracted to him. His love is so catching, so infectious, that milk pours from her breasts, even though he's grown. What kind of maternal love? We don't hear about that in the material world. We know that mothers love their children, and that's common. But to have milk dripping from the breasts after the child is grown, it's a different level. Everything's different. The eating of food that is offered to Krishna, that the devotees experience, it's just different. It's so different that they can give up eating anything else other than Krishna Prasadam. So some outsider, non-devotee, might think like that. It seems silly to perform this bhakti yoga and pretend like we're doing it out of love and he needs it and he pretends like he needs it, and the whole thing is just put on. It's not put on. It's a system whereby a person who's lost his loving relationship with the Lord, he's very gently and mercifully being brought back into it. He's just like a person who's lost his memory. So he's brought back very gently by his loved ones. And they have to be very patient with him so that he doesn't get discouraged or what have you. Krishna is doing that. And not only is Krishna playing the part so well, then his eternal associates, they also become not just playing their parts, they're actually absorbed in their part also. And it becomes a loving affair for them. And they help bring the new candidates to Bhakti Yoga into the whole thing. So this is not something that can be understood just theoretically or academically. It has to be experienced. And therefore there's no other way to understand Bhakti Yoga than to participate in it. You can get some idea from hearing, but the best way is to participate in the system of Bhakti Yoga, and then you'll experience what the devotees are experiencing, even though they may be novices, they may not be very advanced, but still they're getting some of that mercy, and it's so delightful that they can give up the material world in a moment and all its pleasures. Na dhanam, na janam, na sundarim, kavitam va jagadisha kamai, mama janmani janmani svare bhavatad bhakti rohito kitoi. The devotees, they give up their attachment to wealth and to women and followers and fame and all that. Even liberation, they just want to engage in devotional service. It's so satisfying that nothing else compares to it. There's no material thing, even though you may try to put up your most prized project in the material world, and that's sex life, but it doesn't compare. King, what was his name?
Yamunacharya.
No?
Yamunacharya.
Yeah, Yamunacharya. He was a king. And what is that verse?
Yada.
Your microphone.
Yeah. Give us the first word.
Yadavadi mama cheta Krishna padara vinde Navanava rasa damana jatarantu maasi Tadavadi natari sangare smarimane Bhavati mukha vikara susuni sivanamcha. And the translation is roughly, since I've been engaged in devotional service to Krishna, realizing ever new pleasure in him, ever since that time, whenever I think about my former activities, of lustful activities, I spit the thought and my lips curl with distaste. How can he do that? He was a king, he was enjoying unlimited happiness materially. But it's no comparison to spiritual life. And that's why people who are not fortunate enough to be engaged in devotional service, they just can't understand it. They think that their son or daughter or whoever's gotten involved with it has become brainwashed, or something strange has happened. He lost his discrimination and he just went off the deep end. So the chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra acts as a very nice bonding, because even non-devotees, when they chant, they appreciate it, or they hear it, or they see. Even to see devotees chanting, not necessarily even hear them, just to see them, how they move, they become they know there's something extraordinary going on. And that's the beautiful part of this Maha Mantra and the Harinam Sankirtan, is that it seamlessly brings the non-devotees into the association of the Lord and his devotees. That's the Bhakti Yoga network of love. Thank you.
Jai. Sign me up. So, yeah, it's really nice. I like the point that you made, Maharaj, that we have to practice it, or we have to give it a try, or we have to get experience of it. And there's one Maharaj Devamrita Swami. I listened to a few lectures of his, and he mentions to everybody they have to enter the Bhakti laboratory. You know,
what?
You have to enter the Bhakti laboratory, where that's the Sankirtan. You go and you chant, and then you see this network of love in effect. Krishna uses us to do something special for other people. And it's really that simple. If we just go out and chant, after having, received blessings and empowerment, then somebody will just come. And if somebody doesn't come that we can perceive, then, we know that somehow somebody saw us while we were performing that divine austerity, and that was purifying for that person. And how many times, somebody comes to the temple and they said, yeah, I saw you guys at Loose Park. They may not have even come up to us and said hi, but they know that we're there. They know that we're doing something. And it's interesting because we ourselves, we may be quite nervous about such, Sankirtan activities. And actually, sometimes I feel that way, very nervous to be on the front lines, so to speak, and to be extending myself to give this Krishna consciousness to others. And a small thought, or my personal experience is that if I really get attentive in the morning program, 4:30 to 8:30, the whole time, really just like beating the mind back. What's my duty? I'm supposed to be looking at the deities. I'm supposed to be chanting my mantra. I'm supposed to be hearing the devotee chanting. I'm supposed to be playing this instrument. I'm supposed to be hearing Bhagavatam. I'm supposed to be contemplating this subject matter with great attention. If I just do that, then later on in the day, when it's time to extend, extend myself, then I'm feeling like there's enough, like I got enough. It's not going to kill me, It's not going to kill me to try to talk to this person, Sometimes I feel like, no, I'm going to die if I talk to this person. You know what I mean? Or is it just me? I don't know. Maybe I'm just weird. I know I'm not a devotee, so. But and then I knowing that I'm doing this because this is the desire of the Guru Parampara. They want this. They are the compassionate devotees of the Lord. They want this. They're simply in anxiety that everybody come back to the spiritual world. They care about everyone. And because I've been swooped out of Maya by, their grace, then it is my prime duty to give this to them, to the other persons who have not received it yet. Prime duty. That's my prime duty. So when I actually beat the mind back to attention on the practice at hand, whether that be hearing attentively the mantra, the speaker, cleaning attentively the pot, cooking attentively the preparation, planning, so many different activities, but specifically the morning program, 4:30 to 8:30 at least. Then I'm feeling, okay, I remember this is my spiritual duty. They have empowered me by their instruction. Let me do it. Then things can happen. So we're on this side of it, and Maharaj was speaking kind of like, whatever we may do, and whatever any of our prospects or candidates engage in, whether they touch Prabhupada's books, they say hi to us, they smile, or they may even deny us, you know. Sometimes they deny us nicely. Sometimes they deny us a little bit forcefully, but still, they could have said nothing. At least we know now that they're not ripe. In one sense, for a preacher, that's pretty nice to know. Like when somebody comes and says, I'm not interested, that's okay. Great. Right? Okay, great. I was going to spend some time with you. But now I know I'll just save it for that guy. So anyway, I know that's kind of a courtesy that they paid to us. They didn't have to. So whatever they do, and especially if they chant Hare Krishna or they hear Hare Krishna, they see us practicing our devotional service, they get benefit. So Krishna appreciates that so much, and that was just my reflection of what Maharaj was pointing out. But from my side, I was pointing out the side as, acting as an assistant to the preachers of Krishna consciousness. And Krishna says that actually he considers one who teaches the science to the devotees, he considers it even, he considers that person the most dear to him. And never will there be one more dear. And actually this is how we really attract Krishna's attention. So as soon as we practice this devotional service, then we automatically come to this transcendental position, which, so many other classes of transcendentalists are working so hard to attain. It's attained automatically. It's even attained by, like, the non-devotee, just by observing those in practicing devotional service, they're given transcendental benefit. And one who takes prasadam, he's engaging in the Lord's service, even though he may not know. So it's just a matter of time till that kind of manifests, that takes its effect. There's immediate effect, but sometimes it may take some time to make things happen. Maharaj pointed out we have to be patient with others. We have to do that with each other, actually. And we also have to do that with our candidates. That's something that we learn when we try to help people take steps. We learn a little bit of detachment. I may want him to do like this right now. And I don't know why he doesn't understand. But it's not our place to control, So we try our best to help persons take steps in Krishna consciousness. And Maharaj made pointed out a nice word, that sometimes the fledgling candidate for devotional service becomes discouraged. I know that's happened to me many times, maybe many times every day, right? We're discouraged, then we become encouraged, then we become discouraged, then we become encouraged. So we just have to keep getting encouraged. That's why we have to hear and associate. We'll always get encouraged again and again. Okay, let me go again. Let me keep trying. And we always have to be that supportive element in the lives of those who we want to take up the process. Always have to be that encouraging element. And, one of the most encouraging things that we can do for others is to practice devotional service in a very kind of upstanding way, a very exemplary way. that's pretty much one of the best things we can do to really encourage others. We can see, even from Srila Prabhupada's own life, some of his associates from his family lives didn't take up his unalloyed devotional service attitude, at least externally, seems to us. And so what we can understand is that Srila Prabhupada was directly encouraging them, but, just like Srila Krishna was on the planet 5,000 years ago, and he spoke Bhagavad Gita, and people saw him, and they said, whatever, They didn't take him seriously. So basically, we understand that I may actually tell somebody, but Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, there's some Leela that's described there where Haridas Thakur is being praised, and he's being praised for being an upstanding practitioner of the holy name and a preacher, achar and prachar. So if we act in an exemplary way and practice devotional service, then persons will get faith and they'll be encouraged by that. And then when we verbally ask them to give it a try again, give it another try, come again, try your rounds again, read again, do again, then they'll see, you were telling me this 3 years ago, and you're still telling me this? You're still doing this every day? Hey, yep. Okay, maybe I'll try. Anyway, those are some thoughts. Thank you for tolerating me, Vaishnavas. Devotees? Bhakta Fred?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Please accept my humble obeisances, and thanks for the really humble and well-worded class. And thanks for revealing some of your mind to us. I'd like to say I'm not qualified, but I would like to add a comment if that's allowed.
Yes, Prabhu.
So, we say practice bhakti, and when we practice a sport of some kind, there's certain things that you should practice. Like if you're going to play basketball, you should practice dribbling and shooting. You don't want to practice traveling. So when it comes to bhakti, what are we actually practicing? It seems to me that we're practicing incessantly 24 hours, 7 days a week, which Srila Prabhupada has given to us in this program, what His Holiness Danavir Goswami has provided for us with this facility at the temple. But it's actually all the activities that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his glorious gang of devotees were performing. And the practice is essentially to not find fault with other individuals, with other devotees, because everyone here is exalted. And it's not to make ourselves prideful, but maybe during japa we notice our faults and let them burn up by the strength of the Maha Mantra. And what we're really practicing is faith and surrender, it seems to me. Because once we have faith that the Lord, like in that picture right behind you, was chanting and dancing with his associates. And that's what we're striving for, is to be an associate in the Leelas. We don't know which one that we really want or can be in, but we know that we want to be in devotional service. And we can only do that if we get prema bhakti. But that has to be achieved by being in association with devotees. But that doesn't mean be in association in be a hindrance to the association, even though you still might be making progress. It doesn't mean to discourage the devotees. It means to encourage the devotees by not necessarily blind faith or just blindly agreeing, but to have faith that what I see Magadhari Das Brahmachari Prabhu doing or Rishi Kumar Prabhu doing is actually effective. And it's effective not because it's just said that it's effective. It's effective because by surrender, you can actually be gifted a different vision, specifically through hearing. And we're reading together all these wonderful texts through Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam every day. And if we attempt to be attentive, then that means we should attempt to be in a continuity of Krishna consciousness. It's not that we've just been here for 4 years or 50 days, but we're actually in or becoming allowed to be entered in the Leela of what our Svarup is, even if we don't understand it yet, because we're so neophyte, or because I am so neophyte. So it seems to me that when Srila Prabhupada says chant and be happy, it's not that you chant and you're just like, okay, I'm in ecstasy, or I'm not feeling ecstasy, so now I'm unhappy. It's that, oh, I am being allowed by the merciful Lord Nityananda to be in this position, because Krishna comes to save his devotees and vanquish the demons. But Lord Chaitanya comes to, save all the conditioned souls. And Lord Nityananda even has to remind him of that at some point. So Lord Nityananda is so merciful. So, the practice is actually living, facing Krishna. And it's not always so easy because Maya is abundant, but she's a devotee as well. And it's not that we should maybe say thank you to her or anything, but we should thank Srila Prabhupada and the Parampara that we can actually differentiate it. But the only way you can differentiate it is through faith. If we don't believe really if we even have one doubt, it can spoil the entire philosophy or the entire practice. But once we surrender and we get to see exalted devotees, or realize that everyone in this movement is exalted, and that you don't have to go somewhere else necessarily to find higher level devotees, even though that might be the case. But anyone that's trying, because Maharaj said that our efforts are going to have faults. So that means that if Krishna accepts our faults, then how could I, a conditioned soul, not accept a fault? And why should I even be looking at that? And if we're told specifically in the Bhagavad Gita, the results of our work isn't necessarily what the goal is, but Krishna is nourished by the devotion. That means that we try our best. It doesn't mean that we just slack off. But that means that by being in association and attempting to be humble, which is actually rather difficult, but that's seems to be my specific development or point of development at this temple, at this space. And the last thing I'd like to say is that this is actually very practical, and we can make it impersonal, or we can become illogical with it by delving into the mind. But the practicality is that we're actually experiencing this together. Like I see you every day. I see Rishi Kumar every day. All the devotees every day. You guys see me. So it's not actually that we're not getting to know each other. There's no way for us to actually be impersonal. The only way for us to be impersonal is to run away. And then Krishna's still within our heart. So what do we want? Do we want to be eternally servants like we say that we're supposed to? Or do we want to try and lord it over the material nature? Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much. Bhagavad Gita ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. All glories to the assembled devotees.